Alright, so we got Nick Negumereanu, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, and Aleksa Camur, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. Alright, so where do we start? For Camur, he looks for that counter three quite often, but most of his offense is the kicks. It's the lead leg body kick, question mark kick, spinning kicks, a lot of flashy techniques. And for Negumereanu, I'm just going to call him Nick, sorry, from now on. He'll go for that counter two, his favourite punch, probably the straight right, but, he seems to have quite weird mechanics on his straight right. Like, he seems to kind of chuck it instead of snapping it or, even pushing through it, at the very least. But, yeah, he seems to kind of chuck it. Definitely quite an unusual technique that he uses. And he does have a few kicks as well. He'll throw the low calf kick, or low leg kick, really, kind of throws it to the thigh. But he does telegraph them. But, Camur doesn't check them. It could be a weapon here, but Negumereanu, he kind of telegraphs basically all of his strikes, so, that could get him in trouble in the future. Both these guys like to grapple quite a bit, For Camur, he likes to get the double unders and look for the outside leg reap. He was trying to get that quite often in his first two UFC fights, so I think he likes that technique, but he generally has poor technique on his takedowns and just his finishing ability on those takedowns. Seems to go for throws that aren't on, go for trips that aren't on. Doesn't seem to have good understanding of weight distribution and just momentum, especially when he's in the clinch, but that's probably going to come with time. He's only had 7 fights in his career, most of them inside the distance, so yeah, can't really blame him. But yeah, for Nick, likes to drive a double onto the fence. Once he gets you onto the mat, he looks to get in dominant position, preferably mount, and then look to rain down ground and pound from there. But his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like his Jiu-Jitsu game as a whole, doesn't seem very good. If you watch even his top game, even his bottom game, both don't look good. And if you want a good example of that, go watch his fight against Aleksa. I believe that's kind of how you pronounce it, semi-correctly. In the second round, Nick, I think he had mount or something, and the guy was sticking his arm like straight up, like he's flat on his back, he's sticking his arm straight up. I think Nick has a cross face or something, and he just doesn't go for the arm triangle. Like the guy was pretty much begging to be arm triangle. He wanted out of there, and yeah, Nick just didn't know how to do it, I think. So yeah, I don't think his top game is very good. I don't think his bottom game is very good. I think he needs to learn a bit more jiu-jitsu, and maybe you could finish fights quicker with submissions instead of sitting on top and landing some whatever ground and pound. But how these guys win? So for Camur, he's got a decent pace. He can push, decent pace. He's got decent volume, I guess. How these guys lose? So for Camur, he's got poor takedown defense, poor get-ups. For Negumereanu, he has poor takedown defense, poor get-ups as well. He's quite hittable. His head doesn't move. He telegraphs everything, and he's just undersized for 205. Sorry. Like, his opponents don't seem to respect his power. I mean, I was talking about before, just the way he throws his straight right, it's not correct, and it's not going to generate too much power, honestly. Just the way he throws it, it's just not, it's not how it works. It's not how you generate power. But yeah, anyway, path to victory for these two. So for Nick, look to forward pressure, get him onto the fence, and then shoot. The guy will back up. Look for leg kicks. Camur doesn't check them. Look for 2 off the clinch break, because Camur does keep his hands low. And for Camur, look for jabs and left hooks. I mean, the guy just doesn't see the lead hand coming at all. And yeah, look to keep the fight at kickboxing range. Don't let him get close. Don't let him, try and clinch up and go for takedowns. Look for knees as he does shoot. I mean, normally I wouldn't recommend throwing knees as the opponent is going for takedowns, because, they can turn it into a takedown and just leaves you off balance, honestly, and it's pretty low percentage technique. But Nick, he telegraphs his shots more than anyone I've ever seen. So yeah, you can probably go for that knee if you can time it correctly. If you get the timing on, or the distance of where he is looking to shoot, then you can, look to time a knee there. Absolutely. So how I see this fight going, I bet Sparabek Safarov, or whatever his name is, at dog odds against Nick, which I was really surprised that, Nick was favoured against anybody in the UFC. And pretty much the only sweat was whether Safarov was going to get DQ'd from grabbing the fence too much. So yeah, that was a pretty easy cash, but I just thought Nick looked terrible on tape, and he looked terrible in the octagon as well. And getting domed by Safarov, like, are you serious? You can't be having that. He comes from Moldovan regional scene. Massively padded record. I think a lot of Moldovan fighters come in with padded records, and some of them are good, some of them are decent, like Spivak and Romanov. They're decent, but a lot of them just hugely padded records, haven't faced too much adversity before joining the UFC. The combined record of his opponents before he joined the UFC was 43 and 102. So that's a whopping like 25 to 30%. Like it's things like 28 or 29% win rate for those guys. And I don't think he even looked good in those fights. Like I think he looked pretty bad considering. But he is really young, so maybe he has made some improvements. But there's no notable coaches where he trains. There's no notable fighters where he trains. I think he's still at that same gym in Moldova, so it's hard to be confident that he is making those improvements. I mean, the coach that he's with right now hasn't even taught him how to throw a straight right correctly. So I don't know. I'm not too confident that he's going to be making these improvements. But yeah, I guess he is young. Camur isn't great either, but he trains at a better camp and is likely to be making more improvements than Nick, so I guess, yeah. But he also just seems the better fighter on tape, just slightly, but yeah. Probably going to be a terrible fight to watch, in my opinion, unless someone gets slept early, but both aren't very entertaining to watch, and both aren't UFC level, so yeah, anyway, let's have a look at the betting lines. Prediction is Camur by decision. I think he's too much of a favourite, though. Both these guys aren't very good, so I wouldn't favour him that highly, but I think he deserves to be the favourite, but probably not that high. I think there's a smidgen of value on Nicolae at $3. If nothing else, he does have a path to victory here, just from what I've seen with Camur's takedown defense and his get-ups. But, he's not a very good wrestler himself, but he does have a path to victory, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Probably wouldn't bet this fight at all, but if I were to bet anything, it would be Nicolae. Definitely wouldn't be Camur at that price.